Welcome to the Restoring Our City podcast. My name is Jobin. We're excited to bring you some new episodes in season 3, and we are continuing to bring you some candid conversations on today's topics that help connect our community. And in this episode, we wanted to tackle some of the interesting news that's out there that revolves around our stock market and the economy. You might have seen this on the news where a group of Redditors influenced the stock market by buying a bunch of GameStop and AMC stock and really influenced the stock market. And you might be wondering, why is that relevant to our community? And we wanted to ask that question as well. What is our responsibility when it comes to being educated on some of these topics? And not only that, what is our responsibility as Christians when it comes to our money? And so on this episode, I'm joined with fellow Rock collaborator Josh Kuruvilla, who's a CPA and has a lot of experience auditing some of these brokerage firms. And he gives us some insight into this situation, but really gives us some wise counsel on how to be responsible with our money. So we hope you enjoy this episode. As always, if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find the video versions up on YouTube as well. And follow us on social media and engage in the conversation. We'd love to hear from you. So you can find all that information on our website at restoringourcity.org. Thanks for listening. One of the biggest news stories to the year so far has been stuff going on with our economy and the stock market. And I think it's something that we have a responsibility to follow up with and actually understand. It impacts everybody, like it or not. If you own stocks or not, or are not very financially literate, it's a topic that I think we all should be educated on, not only from like a business or financial perspective, but even from like a Christian perspective. And we want to talk about that today. And joining with me on this podcast is one of our fellow Rock collaborators and CPA, Josh Kuruvilla. He is on with us. Josh, how's it going, man?
Dude, you can't do that. You can't throw CPA out there. That means I have to put like the disclaimer of, I'm not providing accounting advice or financial advice, and not putting my CPA license on the line. It's technically accurate, but
you are just a guy who knows some stuff, and you are on our podcast.
I'm a guy who's interested in this stuff. Let's put it at that. I think it's super interesting, all the stuff that's been happening in the market. And, I think it's interesting to share perspectives. I think a lot of people don't talk about money or aren't comfortable talking about money. So I don't know. And they're making decisions without feeling as comfortable as they should be. So that's why I think it's interesting to talk about investing and there's kind of been a divergence in our economy, right? You were talking about economy, but the economy is jobs and people, but the stock market's going up and up, but people still don't have jobs, or they're still talking about stimulus checks. And then you get all the craziness of GameStop and everything we're going to talk about today coming in. So,
yeah. And so I guess maybe we'll start there too, just to kind of talk about some of the relevant topics that are happening currently, like, GameStop. And when was the last time you've ever set foot in a GameStop? Do you even remember?
I don't remember, but I can't remember the last time. I can remember one of the most pivotal times of going into GameStop is when the new system comes out, and then you're like mortgaging your prior system along with taking all of your birthday money and everything and putting all of that together to see if you can buy just the bare bones of the new system. So I think the last time I did that was trading in my PS2, which I loved so much. I got so many good hours of gameplay on that, and them saying, hey, I know you bought this for like $250, but we can give you a solid like 15. And then the controller's like 2. And then all those games that you've played for countless hours, we'll give you some change for those. So I think in total, you should be able to knock off about $35 on the new system.
It just never seemed fair. And like, those guys behind the counter was totally hassling you and like, not giving you trade or fair value. But it's weird that GameStop has come back into the news for something that I haven't used in so many years. Nowadays with social media and the internet, obviously people tend to jump on bandwagons. And I was kind of debating, should we talk about this on our podcast where we have candid conversations on today's topics that impact our community? And I think this checks all those boxes because this is a relevant topic that impacts our community. I want to read a stat. The Indian Americans are the wealthiest group of immigrants in the US. And according to the AAPI data that says Indian Americans actually have highest earnings, and their medium household income is $139,000 compared to the average or the overall median US income is 61,000. I guess I wanted to talk to you, Josh, about that. Like, what's the responsibility of the everyday person when it comes to their finances? How involved should they be? How educated should they be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first step regarding your finances, if talking about it or thinking about it makes you feel uncomfortable or unease, it's probably something you need to spend some time with, right? Whether it's with an accountant or somebody that you trust that knows finances, or somebody like your parents that have done it for years. You don't have to be, specialized in the industry to understand the basics, but in my opinion, I think there's a big responsibility around finances, right? It's one in hopes to pay our retirement. It's in hopes to pay for our children's college, hope to pay for the vacation that we want to take. But if we even think about it from a biblical perspective, I mean, this, if you believe, if you're a Christian and you believe that everything's from God, this money wasn't given to you by your own works or acts, or from some windfall that your parents had. It was entrusted to you by God, right? And so there's the tithe element of it, but there's also a piece of, you kind of, in my opinion, you want to optimize what you can maybe tithe, or how you can help others, or what you can do for your family. So I think there's like a strong responsibility to not, read off all those stats. I kind of had Donald Trump's voice in the back of my head of like, we're the richest, but the reality is, the more money you make, you take the Spider-Man quote, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So once you make more money, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on the way you look at it in this country, and is money allows you to have a louder voice, right? And that's evening out with a lot of the internet and Reddit and all of these great things. But money allows for a larger voice, right? We see it in government all the time. Most people who run for office aren't running with hundreds of thousands of dollars for president. They're running with millions, if not billions of dollars, right? So we have a responsibility to take care and be good stewards of the dollars that God has given us. And there's a verse, we were talking about this maybe earlier, Joby, that talks about you can't serve two masters. You can't serve God and money, right? And I think sometimes people think of that as, oh, I shouldn't care about money, or money shouldn't be my primary driver, which is very true, right? It can't be the thing that drives value in your life. But I think if you ignore it completely, you're maybe letting money control you through unintended consequences, by not being responsible and active about your money, right? Like, you would never, if you believe in tithing and tithing 10%, you would never tithe that to a church that you don't believe in, right? You're being responsible. You want to make sure that money goes to a responsible person, right? God has kind of asked us to, one, trust him in doing these types of acts, and in tithing, but also to do it in a way that kind of vets it all the way down the line, right? Because unfortunately, we live in a world where you can't trust that somebody's going to do exactly what you tell them to do, right? You gotta know a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's so wise and prudent. I feel like the Bible instructs us to be wise with our money. And there's a really great Gospel Coalition article that I read, that's titled Five Lies Christians Tell About Money. And it's interesting. And I've heard this over the years, and the Bible talks about money a lot. And I think even this article quotes that there's more than 2,000 verses that are dedicated in the Bible that provide instructions about money. And I do want to read two verses from Proverbs chapter 10, 4 and 5. It says, a slack hand causes poverty, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. And he who gathers in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps in harvest is a son who brings shame. And so I think it talks right there about the wisdom it takes to be diligent with our money and how we should be taking care of it. And I know there's, the proverbs and the parables about the man with the talents and how we should be trying to grow things like that. And I think it's really important for us as Christians, if we identify as a Christian, to be wise with our money. So, Josh, what do we tell all the Redditors out there who are trying to stick it to the man? Like, what do they do now? Do they just go buy a bunch of Dogecoin?
or AMC Theater or of the like. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot bigger issue and problem, in my opinion, of like there's income inequality, right? And that's what's coming out in all of this GameStop versus hedge funds versus even Robinhood, right? Everybody's mad at Robinhood for halting trading, but in my opinion, understanding and auditing some broker dealers and things like that in the industry, there are financial regulations. They're called the customer protection rules that the SEC puts out that protects customers. And so, understanding all of this, it's not a simple concept, right? You have to educate yourself on what is going on and what should I do with my money, right? And my opinion is, value investing is really the way to go, right? If you look at the Dow Jones or the S&P 500 over the last 10, 15, 20 years, it's doubled, tripled, depending on what time frame you look at. And so if you put your money into the market in a diversified portfolio, you really get the most gains. I don't know that the way to attack kind of the income inequality is through the wallet of, big business and things like that. And I appreciate and understand that. But at the same time, overinflating like a price of a company that's really not worth it, is that a consistent solution to this? No. Is it a good one-time maybe correction of one? I think it does two good things. One, maybe it gets some more purely speculative hedge funds out of there, the ones who aren't doing long short strategies and doing good things. And it also gets a lot more people interested in the market, right? There's a lot of people who are hesitant to invest. I think I've looked at some stats from like Gallup, and those aren't 100% accurate, but it says about 55% of adults in the US own a stock, either directly or indirectly, meaning through a 401k or retirement plan or just a security on its own. But the dollars that are represented by those are much higher than you would expect. So the percentages of people investing are lower, but they have a lot to invest. And part of that is understanding, concepts like compounding interest and, how do you make more and more money over time through disciplined investing, understanding capital gain stacks, long-term, short-term, all of these things are things that individual people should understand. In my opinion, no one should leave high school without understanding these basic concepts, let alone college. And I can't tell you how many people that I meet are educated, have their own business even, that don't know these things. I was actually getting a massage the other day. Joby knows this. I've been having some back problems, and the massages like help with my muscle stiffness. And my massage guy, he's got my elbow into my back, and then all of a sudden goes, "Hey, Josh, can I ask you an accounting question?" And we proceed. It's really actually more investment. We proceed to talk about investments and some of the GameStop stuff and all this investing and ESG investing, which is environmental, socially, and governance conscious investing. That's kind of coming into the market, but there's just such a plethora of ways to educate yourself in this capacity. I think it's, like you were saying, it's the talent story of the guy who just buries his, in this case, money, right, in a checking account, right? You don't bury your money in the ground or under the mattress, but in a checking account doing nothing, that's the kind of thing that I think, it isn't the right thing to do, in my opinion. You gotta think more about your finances and prepare more for yourself, for you, your responsibility to God, for your family, and how you can impact your broader community, right? By you maybe using that money to give back or retiring early and offering your time and other resources up. But it's crazy how many people don't invest. Some of that is driven by that 55% isn't going to shoot up to 100% because some of the folks have just don't have the dollars to invest. But that's where I would really encourage people, even if you have $10 a month, $50 a month, if you can stop the Starbucks, for a little bit, right? Or something like that. That money will build upon itself. If you spend it today, it's just $5. If you invest it, that $5 next year turns into $6. Then you get that $6 and it builds upon itself and turns into $8, and the $8, and that's even conservative, right? And so those are things to think about.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because when we talk about income inequality and some of the just situations that are happening in this world, and you might say, hey, why are you guys talking about finances? What's the big deal? And we might even have like younger listeners who are still in like college and not even working. um, like one of the biggest ways you can't make an impact is through giving back and supporting your community and local businesses and things like that. And there's just so many different ways. And if we're responsible, like the Bible kind of tells us, to be good stewards of our wealth and our money, we can help restore our city, right? We can actually give back and impact our community. So I think these are really valuable lessons. And for everybody who's trying to just jump on the bandwagon because you see some trends on social media, be careful.
Don't ever do something that you don't understand. If people tell
Right.
you to like jump on, like whether it's investing in GameStop or it's like a financial advisor that you're not really sure and they're like explaining things really quickly, and there's great, I would say most of the financial advisors out there are great, but don't ever let somebody allow you to do something with your money that you don't understand, especially if you have a good education, a good background, a good head on your shoulders, you can understand this stuff pretty quickly and pretty easily. It's just a matter of taking the time. So don't ever let anybody convince you or allow you to put your money in, and especially not without just getting some other people's opinions, right? Your family, your parents, and things like that. But everybody's got different views on what to do with money. Do you pay off debt or do you invest? And it's okay to have different opinions and risk tolerances. It's not okay to ignore something that you're not comfortable with and then put it all in GameStop because you want to ride the high. Like, if you don't know what you're doing, that's not the right thing to do. If you know what you're doing, you probably made money with GameStop. If you didn't, you probably bought shares, at 200 and something dollars a share, and it's just going down, down, down. And I think most people could have told you that was likely to happen, right?
Right. I mean, I think the lesson here is like, don't Google your medical symptoms, and don't Google financial advice. I mean, don't believe everything you read on the internet, and seek wise counsel. And I think that's important, not just in finances, but in like all of our everyday situations. So,
Yeah, and I mean, just from that perspective too, it's like I'm in accounting, I'm a CPA, I have a finance degree. Like I understand this stuff pretty well, but I still have a financial advisor. I still have someone I go to because I feel like it's more of a partnership. One, it's accountability, right? How many times have we told ourselves, yeah, I'll do that thing. I know how to do that thing, but you still don't do that thing. I think for me, it's like weight loss. It's like, yeah, I know how to get healthy. I know what to eat. I know what to do, but I don't do it. Right. It's like I'm getting better at it every day. But if I hired a personal trainer and a nutritionist and all that stuff, would it work much better and more efficiently? Yes, 1,000%. And that's the same way with dollars, right? Same way with finances is, get a trusted partner, someone, yeah, they're going to charge you some fees or things like that. But they're going to be somebody you can ask questions about. Hey, how do I save for my wedding, or invest for my wedding, or my what's a 529 plan when my kids my kids are 2 and I'm starting to think about their college. Those types of questions. It's hard to do on your own. So, seek wise counsel, get other people involved, and be good stewards of the money that God has given you. Because if you're not, you're going to be the guy that buried his talents in the ground that God ended up giving those talents to somebody else, right?
I think these are really valuable lessons, Josh. And I appreciate you jumping on and sharing this. I think it's a really critical topic for all of us to just jump in, and learn and get some wise counsel from people who are experts. And even though you might be aware of things and educated on some topics, it never hurts to get advice from those older, wiser, just around you and more skilled in some of these areas. So Josh, I appreciate you jumping on and talking about this topic. And folks out there, we appreciate you listening, and we hope you didn't lose all your money in AMC theaters and Nokia and GameStop. So, thanks for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it and took some valuable lessons from it as well, to be responsible with the finances that God's given us. And we hope we can use that to give back to our communities to help ultimately restore it. So we hope you enjoyed that. We'd love to hear from you. Engage with us on our social media channels. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Restoring Our City, as well as Twitter at The Rock Podcast. You can find all those handles on our website at restoringourcity.org. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the video versions are up on YouTube as well. So thanks again for listening.